Welcome to the 6-Minute Business English podcast, where you can improve your listening, build your vocabulary, and prepare for your next business discussion. Today's episode is all about the 4-day work week. Now, in front of me, I have my free handout. I will be using this as I go through the podcast, and this can be found on britplus.net. It's a free download. Just head over to there. There'll be a podcast section, and you can download the lesson article, the lesson contents. And here we have today's article that I will read aloud, then some vocabulary. We'll talk about that, and then a discussion section where I will give you 3 discussion questions and answer them myself. Let's get into today's article. A recent survey by a finance company called Bankrate asked people in the US about their work preferences. The results showed that most full-time workers in the US want to work only 4 days a week instead of the usual 5. They would also be willing to work longer hours on those 4 days if they could have 1 extra day off. The survey found that 81% of people who work full-time in the US like the idea of a 4-day work week. This means that they would work for 4 days but still get paid the same amount as if they worked for 5. Interestingly, 89% of those who want a 4-day work week are ready to sacrifice something for it. Half of them said that they would work longer hours on their 4 work days to enjoy an extra day off. Some people mentioned that they might change jobs to have this schedule, while others would be okay with working in the evenings and on weekends or take fewer vacations. Over 2,300 adults took part in the survey, with about half of them either working full-time or looking for full-time jobs. About 64% said they'd like to work from home all the time, and 68% preferred a mix of remote work and going to the office. However, it's important to know that what people want and what employees can offer might not always match. Employers may not always be able to provide the flexibility that workers desire, according to Mark Hamrick from Bankrate. Okay, I've selected 3 vocabulary from today's article that I would like you to learn. The first one is quite easy: sacrifice. That means we give up something in order to get something more important that we feel is more important. So in today's article, people are willing to give up their free time during 4 days, so they'll work harder and longer for 4 days in order to get that 5th day off and have 3 days off during the week. How about you? Would you do that? I don't know. I think I probably would. Having an extra day off would be wonderful. The next word is take part, and that means to join in an activity, to participate. So take part probably is a bit more common than participate, and you take part in something. I took part in an activity, in a program, in a class. Take part in, very, very common phrasal verb. Finally, we have remote work, which of course is an incredibly common concept nowadays. You'll often hear either work from home or remote work. They're essentially the same thing. And remote work, of course, means you work out of the company. You don't have to be physically in your company headquarters. So with that vocabulary in mind, let's see if we can use it in our discussion questions. And our first discussion question is, how's your work-life balance? Good question to lead off, to start this conversation with a coworker if you want to use it in your life. So how's your work-life balance? For me nowadays, it's not great. I spend a lot of time in my office. I have a daughter at home, so I'd love to spend more time with her. And I work 6 days a week, approximately 60 to 65 hours. So at the moment, not ideal. Would you work longer days if you could have 1 extra day off? That would be difficult for me, but on the whole, yes, I would. I'd love to have an extra day off because I think when you have an extra day off, you can do more with it. Now, if we're talking about having 4 days work with 3 days off, wow, what could you do with 3 days? You could have a lot of vacations. You could have more hobbies. There would be so much you could do with that extra free time. How about you? Let me know in the comments below. I'm curious, would you make that sacrifice? Now, the last one is, what are your thoughts on remote work? Remote work is an interesting one. I think it depends on your profession. Now, for me, remote work means that I stay at home and I teach online. Sounds reasonable, and it is reasonable. It's quite good sometimes. However, I have found that teaching online, let's say I do 8 hours in a day, 8 hours of teaching, it's exhausting. I get fatigue in my eyes, I get back pain. Just being in front of the computer and constantly looking at the screen is more tiring and feels less healthy than doing lessons in person. Personally, I'd much rather do all of my lessons in person here in my office. Okay, that's everything I have for you today. Remember, I do have the lesson contents, the materials here, and you can access them on BritPlus.net, so please head across to there. I hope you enjoyed today's topic. It's a very important one nowadays, and I will be back next week with more content and another step to becoming a global leader.